Giulia, in your songwriting, one of the things I admire most is you're constantly weaving these very intricate narratives that resonate so deeply with your fans, and they're very intimate. Can you share with us how you transform such personal experiences into something that becomes a universal story?
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky to have not only dramatic friends, but friends who share, all of their drama with me. And I feel like my journey as a songwriter really began when I kind of understood that alchemy that happens. Once you first hear a story, there's then the whole process of how you're gonna see your vision on top of however that story panned out. My friends will sometimes be bothered even when I do this. They will be telling me this guy and blah blah blah, and he was doing this, and I'm like, and taking notes on the side, literally.
Giulia Be's coming for your best friend's exes. Hopefully I don't have any exes that she's coming after anytime soon.
You say that now, but when you hear the song I write, you're gonna be like, Giulia, this is so cathartic.
I'm gonna be go after him.
Yeah,
go after him,
put it out
Giulia.
right now and we send it to him.
In this episode, we're excited to welcome the Brazilian sensation and Latin Grammy nominee, singer, songwriter, musician, and actress, Giulia Be. We are honored and excited to host Giulia's first ever English language podcast interview. She burst onto the global music scene with her hit Too Bad in 2019, when it was featured in the popular soap opera The Seventh Guardian. Since then, her unique blend of pop and soulful melodies has captivated audiences worldwide. With her first EP, Solta, released in 2020, Giulia showcased her range as an artist with hits like Menina, Solta, which became the most listened to Portuguese song on all of Spotify. Her first studio album, Disco Vodar, further established her as a rising star in the music industry. In this episode, we are inspired by Giulia's stories of the mindset it took to get her where she is today. You will be captivated by her understanding of the human experience as she describes how she writes her lyrics, and you will be blown away by her understanding of character as she brings us inside the experience of taking on the role which made her an on-screen star. We'll get a glimpse into how her Brazilian roots influence her art and what future projects she has in store. Welcome to the studio, Giulia Be. You grew up in Brazil. Tell me about growing up in Brazil and how it helped hone your artistic vision. Specifically, I would love to know about traditions or music that you listen to that you really feel shaped your style today.
I think Brazilian music, and you'll hear that not only from Brazilians, but just across the board when you talk to people about Brazilian music, and especially Portuguese. There's just something romantic that is different than the romantic that you get when you're writing in Spanish. It's just it's almost deep. It cuts deep. It's poetic. The metaphors they use are just so visual and descriptive, and I'm talking about this is okay. So I am heavily influenced and inspired by artists that really rose during this time in Brazil called Tropical. It was a very musically interesting time. There's specifically this artist called Rita Lee, who's an amazing, you have to listen to her disco bangers, I swear to God, because she went disco after, but she started with rock and roll. And she was such a pioneer on writing songs that made women feel good.
I love that.
Yeah, and just so, I don't know, just so unapologetically when it came to her writing in a time where it felt like you really couldn't be that and be taken seriously. So I kind of grew up, I'm an old soul at heart. I kind of grew up listening to a lot of old music and my grandma's records. So Rita Lee, Jorge Benjor, Javan. I'm just going to be naming a huge
everybody's
line.
making a Brazilian playlist at home right now. They're making their Brazilian playlist.
Yeah, and it's cool. I think you can jump from so many different genres like bossa nova to samba hockey to how I made my last album, which was I really dove into how disco, how Brazil had a really important role, I think, in disco music. When Earth, Wind and Fire went to Brazil, I think it was 1969 or 1970, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
They went to cut their album Earth, Wind & Fire Live in Rio. They hired a bunch of Brazilian musicians. They got all of those, amazing samples of Brazilian percussion that you can only get from there. And then they exported a lot of those sounds. And once you heard that music, you were like, oh, wow, yeah, that sounds like Earth, Wind & Fire. I'm like, yeah, amor, it sounds like Earth, Wind & Fire in Rio. I feel like there's so much of that music, so much of disco music, and so much of like that percussive kind of moment in music history that was shaped by Brazilian music and a lot of other genres too. I think right now we're also going through this kind of renaissance with, Brazilian funk being so consumed worldwide, and I don't know. I feel like it's an interesting moment to be Brazilian, and all of these things shaped me in a way that positions me now to not only be able to write music in English, but have this whole kind of like these other two languages almost that I can access and can help me kind of get out of the box.
I love the drama that is consistent like this, and I think there's really like a lot of drama in the language, right? So it leads itself to these beautiful, brilliant pop and female empowerment, sometimes ballads that just really, they've really cut through with some of your early music. But I want to talk a little bit about your childhood before we get to your music. Are you an only child? Do you have siblings?
I have siblings. I have actually two older brothers. One of them writes music with me.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
He wrote Disco Voador with me, the album. We actually made the album together. We started writing together during the pandemic.
That's amazing.
Yeah, then I have this, he's older than me, but he's like the middle brother. He's amazing, super talented kind of voice actor. He's able to do impressions like nobody. Wow. Like he would do, like it's eerie. Like
he needs to come play some of my characters.
I'm not even joking. We'll have that conversation.
We'll have that conversation.
Later.
Okay.
My brother, he's an amazing actor, but
what's your earliest memory of falling in love with storytelling and music?
Wait, just because I don't want her to like watch this and be mad, I have an older half sister who
I love
please. So much. I was gonna get to her.
No, tell me more.
No, she's amazing too. But she's a lawyer in my family. Either you were gonna become an artist or a lawyer, and a bunch of us ended up going to the artist.
Okay, hold on. You have to take me back to that. Either you become an artist or a lawyer. So your parents were supportive of you guys becoming artists?
Not really. I mean, it's just that we have these artistic kind of qualities like inherent in us, and like creativity has always been something that is valued within my family, but it wasn't necessarily like an easy career choice to make. Like for me, actually, I was the first one like out of my brothers that kind of, I started my YouTube channel. I was like right in between deciding, if I'm going to go to college or not. I had gotten into law school. In Brazil, it's different than in the US. You kind of go straight into whatever course you're going to do. So I was going to go straight into law school. And I was like, oh, what if I, because the Brazilian calendar is also different. I was like, I'm going to take 6 months off. I'm going to try to,
soul search.
Yeah, I was like, I want to try to open a YouTube channel, like even if it's literally for people to make fun of me in a few years. I don't care. Like I want to give myself the chance. This voice coach that I had years ago, she said, music is like a noisy neighbor that's going to keep knocking on the door of your heart until the day that you answer. And he's not going to stop knocking. I think that's so true. Like I really had to answer that call at that moment, but I didn't know how. Like I was just straight out of high school. Like, how do you become Hannah Montana? Google, literally. But I actually ended up going to Rockin Rio in 2017 as just your average festival goer. And one of my friends, she calls me and she says, Giulia, one of my friends got sick. I have an extra backstage pass. Do you want to come? I'm like, you're going to ask a monkey if he wants a banana?
Course.
Of course. I'm on my way, girlie. I like dropped my other friends. I'm like, you girls understand. And then I went to the backstage. It was my first time ever in a backstage. So I was like, oh no. Like, it was literally, I was like, what is this? What is this? Do people work here? I was in shock. And like literally like Shawn Mendes was in the back, like Fergie was like whatever, having coffee, and Pablo Vittar, who's an amazing Brazilian artist, who now is my friend, but at the time, you know, still an icon. Is my friend and an icon, but at the time for me it was just an icon. And I was just like in shock and in awe of like that experience, and like so grateful that my friend had given me that backstage pass. And she said, oh, I actually know a friend that knows a friend that knows a friend that knows this guy who, you know, worked in Raya, and he knows
Who worked in Raya?
It's always something like that. She's like, oh, and he knows Maroon 5's manager. I'm like, okay, amazing. I thought we were just going to take a picture and like get out. We're about to play Rockin Rio, you know? But no, they were actually so nice to us. Like we went into the backstage and we ended up like talking to, you know, James Valentine, who's the guitarist, brilliant, brilliant man, Mickey Madden, the bassist. And Adam was inside of the, I don't know, he was doing his hair or whatever. I'm kind of like, I don't know, like in really under pressure moments, I don't know what happens to me. I think it's the Leo in me that kind of like takes over. Maybe it's the whole drama thing that I was talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, whatever, it's such a high pressure, crazy situation that I feel like the result doesn't matter. So I'm just going to do, you know, I'm just going to be myself. So I try to like talk myself up, like in my head, like give myself a pep talk that like, you know, to cool myself down, to pretend that it doesn't matter.
Wait, did you sing for these people?
Yes, I did.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
What?
So I literally...
Wait. So how old are we here?
I was 17.
You were 17 years old.
17, straight out of high school.
Go to this festival.
Wanted to start a YouTube channel.
Wow.
Going to this festival.
Still haven't started the YouTube channel.
Still haven't started the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Still haven't started it at this point. And I literally, I wasn't confident enough to be like, I'm a singer to fucking Maroon 5, but I was like, oh, I sing sometimes. And he's like, oh, cool, what do you sing? And I said, oh, I actually did a cover of She Will Be Loved the other day. You know, that one? And he literally pulls the guitar. He's like, oh, this song that I wrote, James, and starts playing the chorus. And I'm
no
like,
way.
does this man want me to sing She Will Be Loved with him right now? And we do. I start singing She Will Be Loved.
No way.
And he starts doing these backing vocals, which, by the way, if you're watching this, my whole life is a lie, because I thought that it was Adam Levine, like on the song doing the I don't mind sweat.
Yeah.
But James's voice when he's doing that backing vocal is probably there's a little bit of Adam too, but it's just like sounds exactly like Adam's. And I was like, like it was just my mind was being blown. And he actually, Travis, their photographer, he's like, yo, Travis, start getting this, start filming this. So I have that on camera, like their photographer filmed it. I was like DMing him for months, like, please send me that video.
Wow.
But he did eventually, and I mean, it was just like a crazy moment. And right after we finished singing, James was the first person ever in my life to come up to me and say, wow, you should do this with your life. You should be a singer.
That's amazing.
That's how it started. So I was like, okay,
if he thinks,
I don't care whatever these high school girls are saying.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to trust this.
Sometimes all you need is confirmation. Tell me a little bit, though, about that little girl and how we get to being a 17-year-old who's willing to take that type of chance. Like, what was growing up in your household like? Where do you give credit to having that much chutzpah? That's what we call it, chutzpah. Because there's something in your worldview and the way that you grew up that made you someone who is willing to take that chance and that was in love with it enough to jump at that moment. Yeah. What was your childhood like?
Honestly, I think my childhood, I always played instruments. From ever since I can have a memory, like I don't remember my life without instruments. I started playing piano when I was 6 years old, so I started in classical training, and that was my oasis. You know, that was my thing. Right around at the same time as I 6 years old started playing piano, this show came on TV called Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
And it completely, like, she was my life. Miley was my life. Like, she's still amazing. She still is my life. Miley, you're still my life. But I'm just saying that moment for me was like, okay, like, she's living this double life. Like, who didn't want to be Hannah Montana at that point, right? And so I, like, slowly throughout my life, you know, I'd be the friend who'd be like, okay, girls, let's rehearse a choreography. Like, there's always the one friend who's, like, rehearsing.
Oh, I was that one friend. Don't worry. I know.
Literally, like, my parents' friends would come over and I'm like, okay, guys, do you want to hear this? I just wrote it. Like, literally, and they'd, like, be forced to clap because it was whatever the kid that lived in the house that was, like, performing to them. But yeah, my whole life I was just like always like searching for moments where I could express that. Like I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't want to somehow have a creative output. But I also asked myself the same question when you were asking me the question. I was like, this is something that I asked myself so much. Like, wait, how far back does this go? Like, when I look back into the generations, like, how can I justify like this
need
feeling in my heart? This kind of there's this line that I love from a book called Letters to a Young Lawyer, who's like the creative impetus to write. You know, I think when you have that inside of you, you just can't shut it.
You can't shut it down. You can't.
And
mine kept on haunting me until I listened to it.
Exactly. It's
every time I try to do something else, I would end up in front of a camera, or I'd end up telling a story. And like literally, I had 3 careers, and then finally I was like, I can't fight it anymore.
I can't fight it. And it's true. Like I think, I don't know, sometimes I'm more comfortable in front of like a camera than I am like in a room with 5 people, I swear to God.
That's normal.
It sounds, for us it's normal, but if you say that to, somebody else,
people have the hardest time understanding that
they're going to be like, oh my God, I can never. And which is fine too. But I was kind of looking into my family, and especially my mom. And my mom is my best friend. She's my momager. And she... we have a great, amazing relationship, and she's always been such a creative mind. Like, she's an interior designer, and she painted like amazing silk on silk when she was like 23 years old. My grandmother is an actress.
Way.
Yeah, she did like local theater in Brazil, and she was like an extra in one of a few big movies in Brazil, but she never really got to like fulfill, I think, because she had to make so many sacrifices as a woman at that time in order to be a mom to my mom and my aunts, and my mom to make so many sacrifices in order to be my mom and the mom that she is to my brothers. And recently, actually, like last year, I was just talking to my grandma. We were just talking about family and like DNA, and I've been trying to look into like my ancestors and kind of like try to find how they shaped me in ways that I don't yet understand, like ways that aren't like just the physical, ways that like are in my celestial DNA somehow.
In your cells,
yeah. And I found out that my great-grandmother, she played the piano brilliantly.
Oh, no way.
Yes, she used to play like Argentinian tango on the piano, and she
so cool.
She loved the piano. She loved singing. She made hats. She was like a hatter.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, okay, Grandma, go off. Which I didn't know. I had no clue about. Like, my whole life, like since my mom didn't play the piano, my grandma didn't play the piano, I was like, okay, I'm starting something fresh here. But to like find that like years ago, to imagine somebody that's like a little bit like you, that kind of like was a stepping stone for you to
planted
be here.
The seed.
Yeah, she planted that seed, and I'm like now being able to live this through all of the creativity that kind of accumulated.
I'm sure that's where some of your...
It's really special.
I'm sure that's where some of your motivation comes from too. Because there's always, especially with kids who had parents who worked very hard and grandparents who worked very hard to get them where they are, there's always a bit of a chip on our shoulder where we want to do the things they couldn't do and create the art they couldn't 100%. Create. And beautiful things come out of that.
For sure.
I want to talk a little bit about your first hit, Too Bad. You went on from Too Bad to creating your EP. And I'm sure there was a drastic journey between releasing that first song and then getting to your first EP. Can you talk to us about how your storytelling process changed from entering in and starting with that first song and then going on to start building an album, first a first EP and then an album?
I think the main thing was confidence. Like, I always like knew that I wanted to write, that it was inside of me, that was something that I liked doing, and I had like a natural inclination to. But when I first got into the studio, at the time that I was making Too Bad and I was making other songs, Too Bad was actually a ballad that I had written in my room. It was not a 4 on the floor EDM pop. But when I went into the studio with the producers, I didn't have like it in me to be like, yeah, I want to put out a ballad, you know. Like at the time I was like,
You're a new artist.
You just wanted to be like Dua Lipa, right? Like that's what I kind of wanted to do. I wanted to do pop, and I wanted to do it in English because I had written that song actually prior to writing a lot of my material in Portuguese. Most of my life, I think Portuguese was always like harder for me to write, and for some reason up until I was like 18 and actually had to do it for my career, then it became easier to write.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think for me, when that shift kind of happened from finally, okay, being in the studio, being with these producers, kind of taking the song to a different direction, it made me, like everything in life, when you go through experiences, you kind of understand what you like about the experience, what you don't, and you filter out, okay, I want to do this again, and I want to not do this again. And I think throughout going to the studio every day, writing something else, sharing, getting validation from people, being like, okay, that's a good idea. Oh, actually, this is good. Suddenly, you start to think that you're less crazy, because something that people also don't talk about enough, for you to get to the point where you're in the studio sharing your life with strangers that are supposedly there to help you make a song about it, like no one prepares you for like how much of yourself you're going to be dividing every single day with those collaborators, and how much you're going to have to like not only learn from them, but also be able to stand your ground and stand in your knowing of what you want your art to be. And when I actually released Too Bad, I loved the song, and it was like my little pop moment that I had been waiting for. But when people heard the song, they didn't think I was Brazilian. Like a lot of people, like still, like to this day, I actually posted a TikTok like last year. I was like, oh, this song is mine. I know you had no idea. And it went like viral. It was like millions of views nowadays, because people had no idea. It was like, oh my God, I always thought it was Halsey. Oh my God, I always thought it was BB Rex. I always thought it was Dua Lipa singing this. Because the song did well, but people couldn't recognize that was my song. They didn't associate the name to the song. So I had a hit, but if I could still go to the bakery and nobody would ask me for a picture,
What did it feel like to be someone like of such, deep Brazilian heritage, and then to have people kind of accept your first EP and not have that be part of the dialogue? Was it something that was on your mind?
No, I think that was the first song. Like that was the first moment. So that was the moment where I decided, okay, I also need to put out stuff in Portuguese. Like it's not gonna, of course I love writing in English, and I've always done it my whole life. And I, now finally here we are 6 years after this whole shebang, my first podcast interview in English. And
I got the first English podcast, guys.
Go, first of many. But yeah, it was just like something that I was throwing myself into when I was first starting in Portuguese, and when Menina Solta came out, that is what I consider even though the first song was a hit, that is what I consider my first like big hit, just because that song like changed my life. That was a song that changed my life completely. That was a song that made people know who I was, and like accidentally I ended up making a song that was like a lot about female empowerment, and that girls would like relate to and come up to me and be like, oh my God, I'm such a Menina Solta. And I'm like, I'm actually the narrator in the song, but yes, me too.
I want to talk a little bit more about Minnesota, but I want to just connect the thread from being backstage with Adam Levine to that first EP. Can you just connect the thread so people understand you had all the belief in the world that this could possibly be something for you. You start that YouTube channel. What happens next?
Okay, so I start sending links to whoever I knew, my dentist, everybody. I'm like, hey, well, check this cover out that I just did. And I put out like a cover in Portuguese, and I did not expect for it to do well. And at first it was slow, like with every video that you first put out. At first it's slow, and then it starts to pick up. So I put out this cover of this song called Deixe-me from this rap group in Brazil. And it was a very kind of different rendition. It wasn't even a cover. I didn't call it a cover. This is something that is also good advice for whoever's like starting. If you're putting up covers, don't call it a cover, call it a version. Just because once you call it a version, you're like making it your own, And that's what I wanted to do. So I called it a version. I didn't call it a cover. I said, this is my version of that song. But literally, I just had like found these guys that, you know, would do it for like whatever that I could afford at that moment. And I was like
As we've all done.
Yeah, I was staying in my friend's place because, you know, we just wanted to kind of do a little bit of a release kind of party thing for this stupid video that no one was going to watch, until someone did watch and it started picking up and it started going viral too. And actually, I was on the website for the law school.
No way.
Inscription. I'm not even joking. I cannot forget this day. I feel like so universe type of moments, you know.
Of course.
I was like with the law school kind of website open, like kind of like it had already been like 4 months since the whole Maroon 5 thing had happened. I already like put out like 2-3 covers, like more on my Instagram, but like 2-3 full covers on versions. On YouTube. At that moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to take the L. I'm just going to go like, whatever, let's go back into law school. I was like on the website and I get this call. I never picked up when it's like a random number that I don't know. But I picked it up. For some reason, I picked it up. And it's this guy going, hey, blah, blah, blah. I'm this guy. I've worked with this artist, you know, like big artist in Brazil. I'm a manager. This DJ sent me your number, and it was this DJ that like knew me. And he's like, you know, I really would love to talk to you and set up a meeting with you. And I'm like, okay, can my mom come? Like, and then we set up the meeting. My mom did come. And this guy basically had already shown the video to the president of Warner Brazil at the time, before coming to me. He wanted to be my manager, but he's like, I already showed it to this record label. They said they want to do, you know, they want to hire you, like they want to have you be, they want to sign you.
What a moment of fate.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this is absolutely crazy, and I was like telling my dad, I'm like, please, Dad, like I don't want to go to law school. This is Phil Collins' record label, because it's like Warner Brazil. I'm like, keep the Brazil part out of it. I'm like, they do Phil Collins, please.
Dad, I'm going to be famous with Phil Collins. You have to let me get out of this. I love that.
Yeah, that was how it started. So it was like 1 year actually into my label deal before I put out Too Bad.
No way.
Yeah, because I spent 1 year just writing. I would write every single day.
Though. What a beautiful story. This episode was brought to you in partnership with Little Black Tux. Little Black Tux is my go-to when I need a timeless look. Whether I'm speaking on a film panel, walking a red carpet, or need a bold, sophisticated look for a photo shoot, Little Black Tux has me covered. Little Black Tux isn't just a clothing company, they're a company with a story, a strong why. And you know I love a good story. They're breaking boundaries and creating clothing that empowers women with versatile, upscale options. I love my Little Black Tux, and I know you will too. Let's go back to Menina, Solta. And you were talking about how this changed you, and it really touched a lot of hearts. Can you talk about that change that you saw, or why that was so pivotal for you?
Yeah. I think up until that moment, all of the songs that I had put out had been songs that I had like properly like gone to the studio, worked with the producers, talked through concept and like stuff that felt like more like a collaborative effort. Even though a lot of the concepts and stuff I would like come to the studio kind of half ready, because I like coming like prepared, you know. Like I like having options, and the producer will help me filter them out. And basically, Menina Solta was a moment where I was like, I had just put out this other song. This is actually a fun story to talk about. I had just put out my second music video after Too Bad.
Okay.
And since, you know, Too Bad, I think the label really, since it was like my first single, like, I'm not going to lie, like, they let me do it on my terms. They were like, do it in English if you will. You know, we'd never done that before.
That's great.
I was the first artist that Warner Music Brasil put out in English, which I don't think they've ever done since, but it's basically, they were like, okay, so now the second single, we need to have like something in Portuguese, like let's get, you know, this vision. And I really wanted to be a pop star, so I was like, what do pop stars do? Then, okay, nails.
Julia's Google search is like Hannah Montana. What's it called?
How to be Hannah. Okay.
How to walk in high heels.
What do pop stars do? So then, literally, that I know. But I was like, okay, so I need nails. I need long nails. I need long hair. I need a braid. Somebody have a braid. Wig. Immediately, we need a wig. get a wig. We need latex. We
Yes,
need latex immediately. I want latex. Like that. I was like kind of getting through the checklist of like what you need to be a pop star, right? And dancers. Yes, dancers. Oh my God. And then we ended up shooting this music video that had dancers, latex, hair, and all of it, the whole shebang. And when the song came out, the video had already like 2 million views at this point. And I was like, guys, I can't do it for one more second. It's just not me.
It's not me.
I look at that video and I just see somebody else. Like, this is not me. It's not that the song was bad. Like, the song was good, but it was also a song that I had originally written as a ballad. And I tried to turn into a pop reggaeton, whatever the hell, so it would be successful. But it just ended up like kind of crushing my soul. And at that moment I was like, okay, I had one song that did well. I have this song that, you know, is doing okay, but nothing to do with me. I take the video down from from YouTube. Yeah,
I said no way a bunch of times in your episode. Yeah, that's crazy.
I took the video down from YouTube without telling the label. But it's okay. They understood, like, what are they gonna do? You know, they're not gonna let me, like.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyways, I mean, they could have done more. They could have been more annoying about it. But anyways, so I am like, at this point, I'm like, why did I do this? Why did I choose this? Like, is this for me?
I know this feeling.
I'm like, I just started, but it's like almost, you know, when you just start, it's like the moment where I think you're like almost more prone to quit because you don't have any result. Like, you don't have any thing there, and kind of giving you the faith that it's going to work out. You know?
You're evolving and growing so rapidly in that period that I don't know about, like, I've experienced this, but sometimes you finish something and you're no longer that version of yourself. For me, at least, like, and so we put the script out or we put the whatever it is, and I'm like, I'm not feeling that version of myself anymore. I'm a totally different version of myself. And now it's my job to carry that child into the world. And it's not necessarily...
now I got to face it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a part, like, you know, that's also something that's not talked about enough. Like, the time that it takes from the inception of an idea until the time it actually comes out into the world and is shared. Like, there's no way you're not going to change as a person, artist, all the above, through that process.
Absolutely.
And it's just about making peace with it. And at that moment I was like, I need a break. I'm gonna go for a weekend with my friends. I was like bored or depression. I was like, I don't want to go into this, you know, headspace. I was like, I need to do something about it. My friends were like, come, there's going to be this surf championship in Saquarema this weekend, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be so fun. I'm like, guys, I don't know. I'm so depressed. I don't want to, like, bring you guys down.
Because for those of you guys listening, because you're in many ways, you're defining yourself in these, like, it feels, you tell me, but I would imagine, and I know I have felt before, like I'm boxing myself into an image or something that I'm creating. So I'm almost like a victim of my own creation.
100%. No, 100%. Yeah. Like, I was the one that said, get the nails.
Yeah, you were like, get the latex. You're like, I can't have latex.
Yeah, I'm not blaming it on anyone, but it's like, there is a reason why I said, let's go get the latex and the nails. And that's a whole other podcast. that's a female kind of, you know, societal pressure and kind of, you know, wanting so badly to fit in when you're, especially when you're starting, because you want to stand out, you want to be different, but you also don't want to stand out enough where you're standing out too much and you're not being successful. And especially in that beginning process, it was a lot like that I was dealing with. So I went to this weekend, literally at the pool. I was like with the guitar with my friends. I was like, guys, I cannot write about my life anymore. Like, if I write this sad song, I'm gonna like literally quit tomorrow. Like, please tell me, like, your story. Tell me something about yourself so that I can write a happy song. And I had this friend that was like a huge player. She's like, you know, was talking to this dude and had this other dude on lock and this other guy back home. We stand. And so she was like telling me, I'm like, okay, where does he live? What neighborhood? Ipanema. Oh, okay. And I was like writing everything. And the song, when you like translate it, it's very much like a story. You're saying, there was a girl from Baja and a guy from Ipanema. They went to watch the championship in Saquarema thinking that it was going to work, but there were only problems. I could translate all these songs, but anyways, that song, I wrote it in like 15, 20 minutes just because it was funny and fun, and everybody was singing it and blah, blah, blah. And I felt like like lightning had just struck me. I was like, "Oh my God, this is what it is to be a songwriter."
The best always comes from this.
This is what it means to be a storyteller. Like now, I'm not just going into the studio trying to like write about my experience. Like I've just opened this whole world now because I don't have to write about myself in order to create. I can drink on everybody's fountain of inspiration and create my own interpretation and help people that are going through stuff and don't know what they're going through. I can help them heal through taking these emotions and putting it. And honestly, when I look back at my songs, I didn't know it at the time when I was writing them, but when I look back at those songs now from my first EP, it's very much, without even trying, all of the songs are empowering in some way. Like they're putting me in a place of power, and because I know the story, I very much know that not always I was in a place of power in those narratives.
That's interesting.
So
your lens lent to that power.
My through these songs, I was able to recuperate, I guess, some of that power, or transform or alchemize. Like "Too Bad," for example. Even the first song, I'm like, "Too bad, baby, you lost me. You know, you're lying on the bed without me. It's too bad." But like, actually, do you think I was home, like being like, "Yeah, it's too bad you lost me"? No. I was like watching The Notebook and eating Haagen-Dazs. Like,
you were channeling from some other place and from all the inspiration around you. I want to talk about that channeling because what happened next was, and what I'm very excited about for you is you were in a film called Beyond the Universe. And we've watched it. We've watched you in Beyond the Universe, and we love you in it. It was a sensation. And I know the story of how you ended up acting. But I think what I would love for our audience to understand is when we talk to storytellers like you who've moved through multiple genres, what is it from your songwriting inspiration and from that world? And you especially are a narrative songwriter. Like you love to weave these stories that we've established. One of the reasons I love you and your work. But how did you use those tools when someone then turned around and said, "We want you to audition for this role. You hadn't acted, you hadn't had an acting gig before, and now you need to take all these storytelling tools that you've learned, channeling others, looking through their lens, and put it into a character that you embody." Was it easy? Was it hard?
It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but the easiest yes I've ever said. Like, I think it changed me as like an artist. It just made me, because once you, and this is also something that people don't talk about enough, but when you're a musician, you have to account for like all of the decisions at the end of the day. Like if people, like if they don't like the lyrics of like whatever the song or the melody here or the production here, like they're just gonna say fa la 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 sucks. Like they're not gonna research whoever was in a part like of doing that, you know? And it's all gonna go to the musician's back, which is amazing because once, you know,
if it's good,
it's like, oh, you're a genius, congrats. But it's also a lot of pressure to be dealing with all the time. And I had always had like such immense respect for the profession of the actor, like for you to really do the mental exercise of putting yourself in somebody's shoes for sometimes 12, sometimes 16 hours a day on set, and having to go through the motions and the emotions of that character. And sometimes it's not always a character that, you know, you're going to agree with, or a character that is virtuous, or a character that is acting in ways that you would act. So you're constantly having to, it's like you're doing therapy all the time, like every single day. I genuinely believe that. And for me, it was an experience that opened my eyes into like the magic of collaboration in a way that I hadn't before. Like, of course, I had seen the collaborative efforts, you know, like on music videos and stuff, but music videos, it's like you do it one day or like 2 days maximum, and, you know, you love these people, but it's not like you create relationship like you do when you're making a movie, like or a series. Those people end up like becoming an extension of your family almost, because you're dealing with them every single day so much. It's just a different level of involvement emotionally. But also, I knew my mission. My mission wasn't to be Giulia when I got to set. And that was such a great feeling, like to have a little bit of a break of like, you know, I love all of my career and all of the parts of it. I'm grateful for every single challenge that comes my way. But to be able to lend my body and my mind for however many hours a day to tell the story of this woman who was this 25-year-old savant and who played the piano, you know, brilliantly and kind of, you know, had this beautiful relationship with classical music and a dream, but also had to go through, she has lupus in the movie. So at 13, she finds out about her lupus diagnosis, and her whole life is her battling how can she maintain this dream alive, and her slowly becoming more of like a closed off person and kind of more in the movie we call her like a cup half empty, right? And the movie is so beautiful. It's about hope, and it's about it weaves music in such an incredible way. And I was able to work with, you know, receive feedback from the director, receive encouragement from my casting, from my castmate, to receive encouragement from the people who were working on the soundtrack, because I wrote the theme song for the movie.
Did you write the song before you started the role or after?
It was in the middle of the process. So when I first read the script, to tell a little bit of how I got to the actually the script getting to me, I was actually in this TV show in Brazil, who it's like a morning, like Good Morning Brazil, right? Encontro com Fátima Bernardes. And Fátima is this amazing icon in Brazil. Like, how do I even find a comparative for her? It's like Kelly Ripa, but like, not to say Kelly Ripa isn't cool, but like Fátima Bernardes is just like, she's just next level cool.
I think I want to be Brazilian after this interview. I could listen to you say words all day long.
Anyways, you can come to Brazil.
I'm in. We got to find something to shoot there. I don't know what the tax credits are like. We'll figure it out.
We'll find something. And anyways, I was in this kind of TV show, and I was doing kind of a moment where I was playing the piano in a performance, singing a song, and there was another one that was going to be like a little bit more energetic.
Okay.
But at the time, I was actually going through a really hard, like, personal moment. I had just found out that my dad had cancer, so he was like,
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay, he's fine now, thank God. But it was a really hard moment, you know, on all of us, and, you know, having to promote music. I wasn't in that headspace at all. And right before going into that interview where I was going to, you know, go promote the song, my dad had sent me a text saying, like, Giulia, I'm here, like, send me a video. He's like, I'm here with the nurse, blah, blah, blah. He just put your playlist on while I'm like on the radiotherapy session. Could you, like, you know, send him a video, like, just thanking him or whatever. And you know, I did, of course I sent the video thanking him, but like right after I did, I was like, I started bawling my eyes out. I just couldn't, it was just like too much to deal with at once. And I had a panic attack. And I remember like having to go in, and like the producer's like, we cannot put this girl in. We cannot put this girl on TV right now. She cannot go in. And I was like, listen, lady, my team will
kill me.
I'm going in. I don't care if I have a meltdown on TV. I'm going in, lady. So you better let me in. And I did go in. I was just smiling and completely out of it. But Fátima, this host, she kind of saw that I was in the situation. She kind of held my hand through it. And during like the commercial breaks, she was like, really, she calmed me down. And I did end up singing the performance. Even though I was anxious beyond words, I did end up performing the song. And at that same time, in the Good Morning show, whatever, a producer was at home having breakfast with his wife and put the TV on, and he saw... I
just said it again. What is up with you? Have the... I love how fate just has played such an amazing role in your life.
Beyond the universe.
Beyond the universe. I know.
It was like crazy. He was watching the TV series.
Of course he was.
And even though I wasn't an actress, they already had auditioned a bunch of like amazing actresses, like the best actresses in Brazil for this role. But it's it would be almost impossible to like have someone that didn't play the piano play that role. Just like even if it wasn't me, like
of course
the character had. Like,
she plays the piano the entire time. She plays it in the air. She plays it on the. Like it is the story.
It is the story. Like if I didn't have the relationship that I have with the piano, if I didn't start playing the piano when I was 6, I probably wouldn't have played Nina either. You know, but it was just like such a beautiful marriage of like, you know, interests. Like I had only like done whatever Juliet in the school play, but other than that, I never thought acting was in the cards for me, especially because I respected the profession so much. I was like, I love it so much, but if I do want to get into it, I feel like I need to like prepare myself. I need to study. I need to honor like, you know, all of this. But you can't wait around when opportunities like this come, you know?
I mean, you are the queen of not waiting around when opportunities come. You set the bar high on that, Giulia. I don't think you can go back.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But there's something to be said of conquering that fear so early on so that you were ready for moments like this.
100%.
And what that attracted into your life is absolutely insane. I want to talk, so for me, the creative process, you've talked about this a bit, but is collecting a bunch of inspiration from the people around me, from the things around me. And I have a notebook. I have it in my phone. And I just like, I'm the crazy person writing down things all the time and then bringing them together. Can you describe your creative process, whether it be acting or for writing a song? Every artist is so, I know as an artist myself, like vastly different. And I am a geek about just understanding, you know, the different, just like how you Googled Hannah Montana. If people were to Google Giulia Be, what is that process for you when it comes to creating?
I am definitely, again, which is probably why this podcast was one of the easiest. Yes, I said too, I am a storyteller at heart. Like for me, it needs to be about the story. If the story's not there, what are you doing? You know, at least for me, like that's always what I appreciated the most when I'm listening to music too. When I, you know, people that are able to paint a picture, people that are able to loop me into their narratives where I kind of forget where I am, and songs that, you know, feel so precise, that feel like they were written for you. I feel like that's my favorite kind of superpower, and that's what I try to, I don't know, nurture within myself.
Are you writing
every day?
A hook or the music first? Are you writing the lyrics first?
So it's interesting. I have definitely like changed. I've been like more open to starting with melodies first and starting with like production first. But if I'm going back to like my roots as a songwriter, I am like a lyric first person, and I still am. Like I still can't, like if we might have an amazing beat and we might have the most incredible melodies on top of it, but if we can't find the story, if we can't find the right words, it's not a song, period. That's what I believe. Like when I'm in the studio, I'm out there like just like writing. I always say like I like write everything that comes to my mind, and then I filter it out. I'll just like, this metaphor is great. Like I'll have like literally notes. I'll show you. I'll show you.
No.
That is like,
I understand this so deeply.
These are all songs.
I wish you guys could take a look at my phone. It looks exactly like
all songs.
this.
Like we're still in February of this month. Like what? You know, and it's crazy.
My favorite's when I go back to my notes page and there's like something small, like something really tiny. Like I'm like, was I schizophrenic when I wrote that? It doesn't make any sense.
I know. I'm gonna try to find. Look, I have this like line, the story that I had in my head, but ended up like never using it in a song. But I just started writing it.
Okay.
So it says, got in the cab and said, "Please drive faster. I gotta get home. There's been a disaster. Nobody asked, but my heart is burning. Our love is in ashes and the walls are crumbling down." So I'll just sing it. In my mind, it's going to go like this. I haven't done it yet, but got in the cab and said, "Please drive faster. I gotta get home. There's been a disaster. Nobody asked, but my heart is burning. Our love is in ashes. The walls are crumbling down." So if I don't have that lyric,
can you
I
not
can't
go
do
back
the
to
melody.
Brazil? I just want to keep you forever.
Keep me here. No,
You're
I
like
I can't not
singing
go back
my
to Brazil.
heart.
But I will be here more often. I think this is, you know, the moment I've waited for so long to kind of be able to share all this music that I have with the world. I've been in the studio every day, working with like amazing people. Like I worked with this man called Justin Parker and this producer called Fred Ball. Fred Ball did Love on the Brain by Rihanna, amazing song, epic record. And Justin Parker did all of Lana's first like album, not all of it, but like most of like the first, you know, Ride.
What a talent.
National Anthem, video games, like those songs, like they made my personality. Like I'm not even joking. And I was a big Tumblr girl back in 2012. Like would literally just be reblogging stuff that literally wasn't my life. But I think that's like where my manifestation board started. I don't know if the Tumblr girls are going to relate to this, but I do feel like Tumblr was the original manifestation board.
If you could convey one message through your art, what would it be?
I could convey one message through my art.
What's the legacy? What are you hoping to leave behind with your stories?
I think that love is a language that everybody speaks. That's it. I just struggle so much with having like all of these like languages that I write in and like the one thing that kind of can get me back to like myself, even like when I'm anxious or worried, is like remember that no matter like what you're releasing, love is the language that everybody can speak. And I really do believe that. Like when you're writing stuff that heals somehow or is about love somehow, like it's just gonna touch somebody. Like doesn't matter if they don't understand the words. How many songs have I like heard that I cannot understand one word of it and I'm like, this is beautiful.
Yeah, you could feel it.
Yeah.
You could feel it. If you were going to give advice to future storytellers, one piece of advice, what is the piece of advice you would like to leave to little Giulia Be growing up in Brazil? What is that piece of advice you would like to share?
This is gonna sound so cheesy, and like I know when you're like the person that's on the other end, like you're looking for advice, the worst thing to be is like, you know, be yourself or like, you know, like something like that. But genuinely for me, for at least on the storyteller, don't be afraid of the dumb ideas. Like I spent at least the first few years of my career kind of being so scared of what people were going to think that I like said like, oh, what about this line? Like it's such a stupid line, but sometimes like the most stupid lines are going to be like the catchiest, the ones that like stay in people's head. So yeah, I think a lot of things I left unsaid, and when I wasn't as confident in my own stories as like now I am today. Like now I know that literally like whatever I write, I'm like, okay, a green elephant came into the room and I put that in the song. I'm like, okay, I can make that work. Like I can find a way to make that work. You know, like
Sure.
I don't dismiss ideas anymore. Like just because they might be stupid. Like, okay, let's hear it. Give me the stupid idea. So let's try to turn it into a good one. And I feel like a lot of times it's through the dumb ideas that you kind of get to the good stories. Like the things that you're like, ha ha ha, and you're laughing and you're like, wait, that's actually pretty fire.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a part
Have
of
fun.
this is the part, absolutely. This is a part of our story, where we do kind of a backwards character analysis on the storyteller.
Cool.
So it's a rapid fire questions.
Let me take my coat
No,
off.
please. Rapid fire questions. I want you to just tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
You're good. Okay.
When I say the word home, what do you think of?
Oh, my mom.
What about the word heaven?
Angels, faith. Yeah, I really hope it's there, and I know it's there. Like I just don't know how it looks like, but yeah.
I hope yours is full of music.
Yeah, it's gonna be fire.
What about hell?
Oh my God, high school.
High school? I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
What food do you find the most comforting?
Arroz, feijão, beef, batata frita, and I'll tell you what that is in a
Yes,
second.
please.
Rice, beans, French fries, and just meat, like churrasco, like picanha, like Brazilian meat. Like that's the classic Brazilian. That food is just like I can't even talk about it for too long. I'll literally like.
What does it
triggered.
remind you of?
It reminds me of home. It reminds me of like just being safe and like, oh my God, like so many times I'll be like, you know, spend 1 week in LA and I'll like go back through like the meals that I had, like, because I've been in the studio and I'm like, okay, I had that Cheetos and that Dorito and that pizza and that Coke and like I just need nutrition. And I'll just go get it like a salad. No, I'm kidding. I'm allergic to salad, but other than a salad, something else. Yeah.
What sound makes you smile?
What sound makes you smile? I love people that have great laughs. Like, honestly, it's like such an underrated skill to have a great laugh.
Yeah.
Like when I hear someone that has like a great laugh, it's just immediately like I will be, you know, it will be contagious to me. Like I will just feel it. I'll just be like,
I got made fun of for my laugh when I was a kid, and then I buried it for a long time, and now it's like my signature nerdy thing.
Exactly. Whatever.
And people are always like, how does that noise come out of that body?
No, my laugh is so bad. Like when I'm actually like laughing to the point where like I can't breathe, it'll be like, and it's like, it's not a cute noise. It's not a cute noise.
But it's so good.
And sometimes I'll go like, and I'm like,
but it's so good.
It's terrible. But it's
How
cute.
do you define love?
How do I define love? Oh my God. I think God, and I know this it's a hot take, but they're just interchangeable words for me in a lot of situations. Like I feel like God is love. Like a lot of times, like people try to associate God so closely to religion that they end up, I think, excluding a lot of, you know, the original message of like just love and acceptance and inclusion and sharing like life and both the pain and the good things. So I think like anytime that I feel from the universe or from anything, like something that's just this deep love, I'm like, oh, you're doing your thing up there.
You're doing your thing. How do you define success?
How do I define success? That answer has changed throughout the years.
Sure.
I thought it was something, and then I had the thing that I thought it was, and I was like, oh, I'm not happy. Yeah. Is this success? I don't want it. But I do want it. I just want it in terms that feel successful to me and not necessarily by an external measure. I think like I've had moments where, you know, you look at the numbers and everything would be amazing, like successful. Like, oh yeah, that you're really successful, but I didn't feel like a success. I felt like I was betraying myself in a lot of the creative decisions that I was making, and a lot of the kind of, you know, relationship dynamics that I was in at the time, like toxic people that I had in my life. Like I didn't feel like a successful person because success is not like limited to money or like laurels. I think it's very much something internal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think success for me nowadays is being able to honestly like share time between like my family and my friends and like my work.
So
like,
precious.
That is success to me. Like if you're able to live your life in a way where you're lending yourself, maybe not 100% equally all the time because that's impossible, but like at least like an overall net positive kind of, you know, I'm able to like be present in the moment, but also ambitious enough that I can take care of my future and prepare for it. I think like that to me is success and like being at peace with that mindset.
What about failure?
Oh, failure. Failure is important, man. Failure is important. And I honestly, like most of the times that I feel like I've failed in my life, I went into it kind of not expecting that I was going to fail, but kind of like, I don't know, like almost like knowing that I hadn't given it like it 100% of my all, you know, because I feel like once you take, like for me to take an L, it's going to take a lot. Like until I take the L, I'm going to be like, are you sure? Can't we call this dude and try to get the W? Like
we have 2 minutes left. I'm sure you can get it in here.
Yeah, like I think it's going to take a process until like I accept that L. So once I do, I think it's like, okay, it's not a loss, it's a lesson.
A lesson.
I'm going to take it and I'm going to understand what happened here. I'm going to go back, see what I could have done better, forgive myself because I did the best that I could at the time. That's something that I've learned to do as well that is very hard. But a lot of my failures have like been from the moment where like originally I should have just like listened to my intuition to begin with, you know?
A lot of my failures were because initially I should have listened to my mom.
That too. My intuition is another name for my mom.
just giving you a shout out, Mom. Do you believe in magic?
Intuition's just a little bit quieter. That's the only difference.
Do you believe in magic?
Of course. What? Hell yes. I'm still looking for that Hogwarts letter. Somewhere. No, but I do. I think magic is... And like I believe it in a way that like probably people would watch this interview and be like, oh, she's so stupid for believing that. Like I believe it in that type of way. I believe in magic, you know? Like, yeah.
But I think that's obvious with both our personalities. If you made us for 5 seconds. By the way, we make the Hogwarts letter come true next time you come. We can go to Universal Studios.
Oh, I did actually. I did.
Okay.
Actually, I did. You know, it's
you have to make your dreams come true.
Yeah, you got to do it somehow.
What about second chances?
Second chances. It's tough. I had somebody ask me that question the other day. Like, I will give the second chance if I actually believe that the person is changing or not. That's another question. But I will give the second chance more for a me kind of thing. It's like you did something wrong, but I'm going to show you how good of a person I am.
I can forgive you. Yeah,
I can forgive you. I'm going to give you one more chance.
Yeah,
and. Yeah, so I feel like that's always kind of how I like to look at things. And even like whatever, let's suppose I gave you the second chance and you messed up again. Probably not gonna get a third, but
no, 3 strikes you're out. 3 strikes you're out.
But I will never like hate the person. I just can't do it. It's not in me. Like I will just be like, yeah, they did that, but sucks. Yeah, but like I won't like spend time or energy.
It's not energy you need to hold. No. What about love at first sight?
I believe in it. Yes, for sure. I think that love at first sight is when you see somebody that makes all the cells in your body reset.
I love that description.
Yeah.
Without considering time, ability, or money as an obstacle, what is the one thing that you would want to do or learn or experience? If time, money, none of that was an obstacle. Ability.
God, I would, to be very honest with you, I've thought about this a lot, like in different moments. I've had like different, I don't know, things, but one of my favorite like random topics to like just study and learn about is light. Like I just love learning about light, how light shapes art, how light like changes people's lives, like how just different ways that light reacts with the world, right? And how especially that translates into like cinematography, photography, and, you know, capturing and creating worlds through lenses. So I would probably like, if no one was like searching after me and I could like just take like whatever, go to college and like do this full thing, I'd probably go to college for like something, I don't know, I would want to learn how to like work with a camera where I could like from the beginning to the end be able to like make an idea that's in my head. Like that's probably
I love that.
what I would do.
We're gonna take Giulia back to film school.
Back to film school. Teach me your ways.
Anytime the door's open.
I just love it so much. I think it's like I've directed my own music videos at different times, and like just the choices that you make as a director, and like how serious they are, but at the same time you can't be taking yourself that seriously if you want to try new things and experiment like stuff that's like different. So I don't know, I just think it's such a beautiful way, like when I see somebody light up a scene and like they can change it completely throughout how the light is in that place, like that just blows my
I definitely think from knowing you that you have a director's eye, and I think, you know, directors are people who understand what the whole tone of a project is, and they approach all their art that way. They have an exact mind and vision of what it should be. And so maybe it's in your book. Maybe it's in your. Maybe it's in your
my
cards.
It might be in my bingo.
What word best describes you as a storyteller?
What word best describes me as a storyteller? I know this is gonna be also cheesy, but probably poet. Yeah, it's just I can't run away from it. Like I will literally like have a conversation with you that's about the in and out that we're getting, and I can find a way to like put the hamburger's tone and the fries crunch. Like I'll find a way, you know, to put it into poetic terms. Yeah, so I do think I'm a poet. Like I love narratives, but poetry for me is about not only writing, but weaving magic in the words so that they evoke a feeling that that word alone couldn't evoke.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's beautiful. Yeah. What inspires or drives you?
What inspires or drives me, to be very honest with you, like lately, the girlies, the women in this world have been inspiring me and driving me. Like every day that I wake up and I'm like unsure, I will like head on to like these amazing women's Instagram accounts or whatever and just like look. I have you heard about this girl that she like whatever was like an Olympic ski something, and then she also went to Stanford, and then she also like whatever. I was like,
no,
I would hate to be your cousin first of all. But it's like
you should find her, Charlie. Get her on the show. Who's this woman?
you should actually. She's amazing. Anyways, I was like, every single time that I'm kind of a little bit unsure of my own ideas or my own type of crazy, you know, because sometimes you do feel crazy and like you have to find a way to, I always say being an artist is walking a very thin line between being extremely insecure and incredibly delusional. So,
by the way, though, it takes a little bit of crazy to make magic happen.
100%, I agree. And so when I see like women that just kind of like keep, you know, resetting the bar and just like breaking the mold and kind of like doing their own thing and like things that you would never have even like contemplated before. And I'm like, wow, girly, go off.
I love that.
I think it's so cool. It's so cool. And it just makes me be like, oh, I want to be her friend. Like I want to be a part of this group of like successful women of the world.
Yeah. I love how that genuinely shows through your music too. It's so interesting that that's your choice. I have one last question for you.
Dímelo.
What's your favorite story?
My favorite story in general, or like my story?
First thing that came to mind.
Mulan. Crazy.
Mulan?
But it's probably Mulan.
I love that.
Yeah, I just love Mulan. That movie made me as well, like of that song. Let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. I swear to God, if you ever have a hard time like going to the gym, put that song on your phone and you're gonna literally like get up out of your sofa and you're gonna go to the gym. Like,
I thought I was the only one who listened to musical numbers in the gym.
No, man, Mulan was just crazy. And I don't know, I think it's probably because I grew up like with two older brothers. Like overwhelmingly my life was like whenever we had time, like whatever they got in a fight, one of them would be like, okay, now you're player two, hand me the remote, and I'm having to like play Mortal Kombat for like 2 hours, you know, as like a 6-year-old girl. And I don't know, I just feel like Mulan for me really kind of was, she made me feel better about like myself, about like just being surrounded by like these powerful, strong men who like, they were my brothers. So they also didn't like see me as like just a little girl, you know, they'd be like, yeah, you want to fight? Or, you know, like we were all kids. So, you know, they were very respectful, but still Mulan was just like, it just made me. And honestly, you know that part, like, this is crazy. Sometimes when I'm in therapy, I do this therapy called theta healing.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah,
I
I'm
told
a
you,
big
right?
binaural beats.
Oh, okay, amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I'm a big fanatic.
Amazing. So,
But tell everyone theta healing is.
Okay, theta healing is this therapy that basically happens through guided meditations. The theory is that when your brain is on a state of theta, it's in between being awake and asleep, and it's more malleable to access trauma, to access your emotions. You just can work through it more easily, and like in these like beautiful like mental landscapes, which is probably my favorite way to do therapy. Like imagine myself in a forest, an enchanted forest, dealing with my problems. Like yes, that's how I want to deal with my problems. So anyways, this type of therapy for me really like it's almost like you're kind of going through these you're ascending, like it's you're kind of trying to take your spirit out of your body through it, you know. I know this is going to sound really cuckoo to some people, but I'm just saying, like, you're trying to, you know,
Transcend.
separate, right? In order for you to be able to do that meditation. And in Mulan, there's the scene where she has, like, I don't know, like, it's a little house where, like, all of her ancestors live, right?
And the
they're,
spirits
like, in the
come out of the
tower, and the
wall.
spirits come, and they're, like, in the tower, and they're, like, giving her guidance, and they're like, no, you do this, and blah, 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 blah. And I swear to God, like, in my therapy, whenever I think of, like, also like my ancestors or like the spirits that are talking to me, I just imagine like the Mulan Tower, and I'm just like this like whatever old little Chinese dude talking to me with like some wisdom. He's like, Giulia, you should go, and whatever. Like it's just really,
I love that.
yeah. I don't know. Mulan, probably my favorite story. It's just such a
what a beautiful way
story.
to end our story with a story that impacted you so deeply. Giulia, thank you so much for coming on Storyteller Studio. We loved having you, and we can't wait to see what other stories you share.
I loved being here, and yes, I cannot wait for you guys to hear my project, my songs, this album, all of these stories that I've been keeping.
Are you allowed sharing when it drops?
Not yet.
Okay.
But it's coming.
Where can people find you?
Next season on. Okay. People can find me on Instagram at Giulia, Giulia. That's probably the social media that I use the most, I think. Yeah. You can find me on YouTube.
And everywhere the music streams.
Oh yeah, that of course. I forgot about that important part. Everywhere the music streams. Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, Tidal. Anywhere you feel like it. If you want to get into some Portuguese bangers or wait a little bit
we're making a Portuguese
English
playlist.
Let's go. Let's go. Thank you so much. I'm sure that this is going to be so exciting for so many people in Brazil to watch me be in my first English interview.
Your first English one. Thank you for doing it. And we'll have to have you back next time you're in Los Angeles.
Yes, I will be
back. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you.